Well, there's something brewing on Apple TV right now, and it's a piece of content you've got to watch. It's Rise Above. It's a documentary, basketball based, and two guys who are a big part of the production of said documentary are with me today. Top screen with me, that would be Russ Payne. He is a coach featured in this documentary, and the man below, Seth Shapiro. He is EP director of Diesel Films behind this. Guys, it's an honor to have you. I know that this is just out. I look forward to exploring the film with you and what it took to make all this happen. We'll get into a vibrant conversation, but first, really appreciate both of you being on with me.
Yeah, appreciate you having us, Brian, and always love your intros. So
You can take that
thanks.
intro if you want, and you could put it in your next film or something as if a voiceover. But let's start here, guys. The genesis of this movie, this documentary. Seth, let me begin with you, and then Russ, I want to get your thoughts on this. What spawned this idea?
So basically, Russ and I had met at a fundraiser actually pre-COVID. I think it was 2019, and we met each other and hit it off a little bit, but nothing too big. And then obviously COVID hit, and that was a hard time for all of us. We were bottled up creatively. Just didn't do too much, and I had actually done a podcast about sports documentaries, so I interviewed a lot of directors and producers in the genre, and just really coming out of COVID, really wanted to do a documentary. Russ had posted something, I think it was on Twitter, about creating some content around his program, and I thought, hey, maybe this could be our documentary, and just be able to be creative and come out of COVID, really wanting to do a feature length documentary, which we hadn't done before. So yeah, connected with Russ. We had a few calls, and the season was about to start, and so we filmed this first tryout, and off we went from there.
Russ, let me add something to that as I get it to you. What do you think about the way you're featured in this film as well?
I mean, I think Seth did an amazing job featuring me in such a positive light for these kids and for the individuals and families. And let's not make any mistake about it. I'm tough on them, right? I push them, I hold them accountable. I want to make sure that they're getting the most out of this experience and the most for them, so they have the opportunity to chase their goals and their dreams.
Not only that, Russ, but what do you think when you watch yourself through the lens that it helps you become even better of a basketball coach? Just the way in which Seth was able to show you behind the scenes, talking to your basketball athletes, you coaching, and what it's like at that level.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that Seth really portrayed is that relationships matter, right? This is more than just being a basketball coach. This is more than just leading these young men in a direction. It's also pushing them to be the best version of themselves they can be and utilizing relationships and networks that I might have to push them into the future. So I think he showed a very humane side of what youth sports can be and what it looks like to have people that are supporting you and in their corner and are willing to do whatever it takes to help these young athletes really get to their end goal.
Along those lines, Seth, when I hear Russ talking about the inspiring nature of this movie and this film and this documentary, and it is pushing athletes to the next level and hoping to see them succeed. What about those sort of tenets and themes are cause for the title of the documentary, Rise Above?
Yeah, I think what we noticed throughout the film is just how dedicated Russ is to the kids and how much he cares about them. That came across to me pretty much right away as things started to unfold in the documentary. The kids battled through a lot of adversity, but one thing that we realized as we were filming was it wasn't really just about this club team or AAU basketball, but it was really about getting these kids to the next level and being able to achieve their dreams of playing college basketball. So what I thought was a summer project ended up mushrooming into a 16-month, journey of ups and downs and a roller coaster. So I think I didn't know too much about club sports at the time because my kids were still little, and I think my age, I preempted that genre of sport, but but as I as we were filming and just seeing how much Russ cared and how dedicated he was to the kids was just really impressive, and it was really heartfelt.
There's the dedication, and there also, I would think, Russ, is in you working in club sports and basketball particularly, there's a stigma that there might be certain thoughts about club basketball, but what are you hoping to break when people watch this documentary? Break stigmas, change minds by the perception of that level that you're coaching and how you can really positively change kids' lives.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, AAU and club basketball specifically, I'm not going to really talk about other sports, but it used to be a very select idea, right? Like only the top players in each city were able to play club sports, and it was a very elite level situation. And over the last 20 years, it's become a little more open to kids of all skill level, all ages, just looking for an opportunity to play sports. And a lot of people think that a lot of kids should not be playing club sports, that, hey, it should be only those people that have a chance to play in college, only those kids that are elite at their craft. And I disagree with that. Now, there is a money grab component with some programs and some clubs, like that's going to happen, but it does cost to run an organization. Like it's not free, expenses are high. But the one thing that I've got out of running a Los Angeles Elite for the last 11 years is the understanding that one individual can make a difference in a kid's lives, right? So us with club, it's pushing them in a category that they like or they enjoy, even if they might not be good at it. And it's building those relationships and that foundation of success for them and with them in whatever avenue that comes to be. A quick story: I have a kid named Ellis Khan, I have a kid named Ellis who used to play for our program called Los Angeles Elite, and he loved basketball, but he was never good enough to play on his high school basketball team. So every year he came back to our club in the summer and he played with us religiously, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. And then he ended up going to UC Merced and being a student manager with the basketball
Oh,
program.
wow.
And he credits his experience at UC Merced with being given the opportunity to play with our club. And his dad, Ed Tom, they call me all the time. They text me. They're just really thankful for the experience. And he had no chance to play college basketball, but him being able to play in the summers led him to a different avenue within the sport.
You see those conversations that you're talking about and the interactions, and they're so fruitful and rewarding, Russ. And then Seth, when you're able to, as going through this documentary, a lot of the work is miking up Russ in action when games are going on. And it's that type of conversation that I think is most intriguing to me, because even if you're at the game, well, it depends upon what the situation of the game is. Maybe you can hear Russ from the sideline if you're a parent, or maybe even a recruit, or somebody who's interested in watching this particular game. But when look, Seth, you've known Russ, you followed him, but when you hear what he says to these players, when you mic him up, what was it about that taught you a different side of him?
I think you really just see the passion that he has for the game and the passion that he has for the kids. I think those in the moment, mic'd up moments are crucial, because that's how he really is in real life. It's not staged. It's not an interview. He's actually coaching these kids, and he's trying to not only win, but have them play the best in front of obviously a lot of college coaches, and try to get these scholarships, which are rare right now because of all the things that are going on in college sports. So yeah, I think the biggest thing to me, I just feel like, is his passion for the game, how much he loves it, how much he loves coaching, how much he loves the kids, tight games. You just see it all go down. Unfortunately, this was a shortened season, so their team kind of peaked early, and then it was real life that what transpired. So unfortunately, they, like I said, they peaked early, and then it kind of tailed off. But that happens, and it was real life as far as what they faced throughout the film.
Seth, I want to piggyback off what you just said, because I'm sure going into this, you had an idea of what type of content you were going to put out. But as things change, as the content continues to be shot, and you're filming and you're adding on interviews, how did, say, the initial thoughts and the way you wanted to brand this film, how did it change at all or be a bit different than over the time of you shooting it from the beginning, the original idea to what it ended up being and what you're hearing people say about what they're getting out of this film now?
Yeah, I mean, I originally just thought it was going to be a film about AAU after COVID and what that looked like because they had missed the year before during COVID. So it was dark and I wanted to kind of see what that looked like. So I was originally thinking this was just going to be a summer project. And then, quickly things change. And then as I had said before, we realized it's not really about the summer. It's really about getting these kids to college basketball. So I think we had one kid with offers and then those offers, went away. And then we had another kid dealing with a family tragedy. We had Marco, who was from Ghana. So what did that look like? He was at St. John Bosco on an I-20 visa. Would he be able to stay in the country? So there was just so many twists and turns that originally, like I said, I thought it was a summer project, and it ended up becoming much, much more than that.
From what you're saying, Seth and Russ, I would think because of these human interest stories that are included in this documentary, that there is this relatability factor. You don't have to be a basketball junkie to watch this film. And why do you think that is?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, I talked about it a little bit earlier, is the relationship factor, right? Like these three individuals, Cord, Jaden, and Marco, went through situations that everybody goes through on a consistent basis. Not in athletics, not in sports, just, it's life. And if you can relate to their life story and their adversity and how they were able to propel using the sport they loved to kind of overcome these adverse times, I think it was fantastic. I mean, those kids showed so much resolve and so much dedication to pushing over a lot of really hard times.
What has been and I'll get to you, Seth, in a minute, but Russ, what have been the initial takeaways from your friends that have watched this and what they've seen in terms of how you've been depicted?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So they didn't realize like I am a individual who likes to talk crap a little bit, and in the nicest terms. And they didn't realize, I think, the softer side to me with these kids and what a genuine relationship looks like as far as coaching. Because I'm tough on them, like I told you, but just really trying to dig in and get to know who they are, what they're about, what their needs are, what their goals are, what their family is like, and really tried to build a relationship that'll last the test of time.
I think you really achieved the realness. I remember there was a conversation early in the documentary where you're sitting around your players and talking to them and being like, "Hey guys, the energy, the effort you're playing out there, that's not going to earn you a scholarship." And
Yep.
you're real with these guys, and that comes across. Seth, when you're taking in all of this footage and you've got all this great content, what was it like for you in the decision-making process in the editing room to decide, oh yeah, we're going to go with that clip and that scene and to sort of scrunch it all together to what it is now?
Yeah, that was a challenge. I think we had over 100 hours of footage, and our first edit was 5 hours.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I really credit Eric Butts, who's a very talented editor and became co-director on the film, of really crafting the story. So we just really had to boil it down as best as possible. Every scene had to have an impact on the payoff of the movie, on the storyline. And it was a challenge because unlike Hoop Dreams, who followed two kids, we followed three kids. One was in Palm Desert, 120 miles outside of Los Angeles. Another kid was in Bellflower, and another kid was in Carson. So we were just spread out, just trying to chase a story. So it was a challenge. And then also, there's so many things happen during that time. Every time Russ would call me, I'd be like, "Uh-oh, what's going on?" So, and I think I still have a little bit of that PTSD. When he calls me, I'm like, is this a bad thing? What's going on? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? I mean, a lot of times we were there for all of it, but other times we weren't. And he'd be like, Seth, this just happened to Cord. Seth, you're not going to believe this. This happened. Marco broke his foot. It's just like, oh my God. So it's just a lot of craziness. But yeah, as far as the edit, we just had to make sure every scene was leading to the payoff, and that's the bottom line.
And it's certainly a film and documentary that is going to pay off in a big way. Obviously, right now, people can go on Apple TV and purchase this film. Rise Above. I encourage everybody that watches and listens to this interview to do that. It will be money and time well spent. Russ, when you hear from your players and some of them perhaps have watched this, some of them have been interviewed for this, let's say when they're interviewed for this film, what kind of talking to them, and Seth, I'm sure you had to do this too, just to make them comfortable. You see a big camera in a room, or maybe you're getting interviewed and it's like, oh, I have to act a certain way, but there's a realness that comes across in the film, and that it's like you don't even recognize that the camera is there with the athletes that you're dealing with. How do you get them so comfortable? I'll start with you, Russ, in front of the camera.
Yeah. So the biggest thing for them is that all three of those young men are really personable. Like they have great personalities. Their sense of humor is there. They were never worried about the camera. They were just answering questions as they needed to. They did a really good job about that. But I mean, Seth and his crew were just phenomenal, right? Like they always had a script ready with what questions they were going to ask, and just giving them touch points, how to respond to questions. Very professional. I mean, Seth and his crew, they put so much time, effort, and energy into making this a special documentary.
As Russ, you said, what makes the documentary special is that it really enters the lives of these kids, and there are tough moments that some of these kids are dealing with. Seth, as EP, as the filmmaker and director, how are you and were you wanting to tell the story the right way, but also be sensitive to what these kids are going through at the same time?
Yeah, that was very tough for me. I really had to, test my moral compass to see how far I wanted to push with these kids, and then also give them space. At the end of the day, this is their life, this is real life, and it's not, the movie is the movie. The documentary is informational, but it's entertainment. But at the end of the day, it's their life. So as far as what they were going through, I would, just make sure, hey, do you still want to film? Do you still want to document this? Do you still want to move forward? And to credit to all the kids, JB, Cord, and Marco, everything that was going on in their lives, they just said, yes, this is, our story. This is what we want to tell. So as bad as the situation may be, they allowed us to still bring the cameras in and tell the story. Sometimes we'd have to give them a little time in between moments, in between things that happen, and we'd give them some time to decompress. But at the end of the day, they were brave enough to keep wanting to move forward and keep telling their story. So, I credit the families and I credit the kids for continuing.
The pride that you must feel, Russ, when you see the way your players are being so forthright in sharing some harrowing moments in their lives. How do you show that pride for the kids, the players that you have, and being so open to talk about these things that for many can be so earth shattering, and but at the same time inspirational to others who are watching?
Yeah, their strength and vulnerability throughout this process was incredible. I mean, they showed a true humanistic side to what life can be, right? I mean, like not to go into like too much detail of the film, like would want everyone to go watch and see what this journey looks like. But there are situations that these individuals are going through that you want them to be able to get on the other side of that as fast as possible, right? All three of them have such a unique story and unique adversity that's happening to them throughout this documentary that for me and for Seth, like you said, we thought it was going to be following AAU, following a couple kids, seeing them get through it, and it became a story of, can we see these kids journey to the end? And I, they were just so open about it. And I think for them, like they're high school kids, like they thought this was super cool as well, right? Like they thought like, man, there's going to be a documentary and I'm going to be in it and you're going to ask me a bunch of questions. Like they were super excited about that, even through the difficult times. Like JB's mom reached out to me, this week after watching it, and she was like, thank you so much for telling my son's story and being in his corner and pushing for him and advocating for him throughout the process. And I'm sure she gave the same sentiments to Seth.
I want to piggyback off what you just said. And as we wrap up this conversation, Seth, last one to you. When you hear that response from people and how much the effect, the impact that this type of film had, how much does hearing that make your life what it is and how much purpose you get out of filmmaking in general?
I mean, I think that's what I strive for. It's those reactions of telling someone's story and doing it justice and making them proud, that their story was told by us in the way we crafted it, even though it's their life. So I think, at the end of the day, it was a hard journey for us as well as filmmakers. It was a lengthy process, and just to get it out to the world went through a lot of trials and tribulations. But when you get messages like that and you have people tell you, how poignant and how heartfelt this film was, I mean, that's really what it's all about. As long as you can touch one person or many people, I mean, that's what really matters.
It all starts right in the title of the documentary, Rising Above, whatever the challenges are. And certainly a lot of your players, Russ, rising above the rim and throwing it down. Although I would love to know what Seth's, your vertical leap is. But I know that the film does so many great things. The themes that we talked about are there. The storylines we touched on, but we didn't want to go too deep because we don't want to give it away. We want people to go to Apple Television, go get it, go buy it, bring your family, make it a Friday night, watch this film. You don't have to be a basketball fan. I mean, I am. These guys, of course, are, but it's relatable to everybody. Rise Above on Apple TV, and it's been so fun to go behind the scenes with Russ Payne, coach, who was a major part of this documentary, and of course, the one of the brains, not the brains, because I know, Seth, you would say there were a lot of people part of this team to put this film together, but Seth, EP, director of Diesel Films, behind Rise Above. Appreciate both of you guys so much and looking forward to the further outpouring of support that this film continues to get.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Bryan.